Hello, guys. My pleasure to welcome you in virtual reality. My name is Vitomir Jevremovic, but you can call me Mr. Vito. It's easier to pronounce and remember. I'm the founder of ALL.ART protocol, SOLC, and ALL.ART, so it's a messy role right now. And I would like to welcome all our viewers from all around the world that are actually now following us on YouTube Live, and also welcome all the viewers that will be looking at the videos later on. So what we have here is a virtual panel room, and our guests today are Elio, Yale, and Papa. And I will just briefly introduce them, and then I will give kind of a floor to them to tell you a bit about their businesses, and then we can switch back to interactive questions, let's say. So Elio is a co-founder of HOFA Gallery. What is great about HOFA is that they're experimenting a lot with NFTs and actually transforming the art market into the NFT space and experimenting with blockchain solutions. And we also have HOFA Virtual Reality Gallery with us after the event. You will be able to actually enter virtual reality exhibition that we've done together with the HOFA Gallery. Yale is an art collector and a dear friend. He also has a virtual exhibition now that will be shown after the event, and he will tell you more about his work in the space and his collaborations with the Chinese artists and in general, like what is going on in his kind of domain. And Papa Moomoo, this is something very special because we have let's say a friend, a president, and someone who is deeply involved into the NFT space only, and actually collecting NFTs and making the NFT collection work as a form of investment, but also as a form of actually gathering down a collection of important NFTs. So without further ado, maybe you can say a word or two more about your stuff. Maybe Elio, we can start with you, and then we can go further.
Hey, nice to meet you. Thank you very much, Vito, for inviting us here, and great panel. Yes, we, as HOFA, have been focusing since 2018 in blockchain technology applied to the contemporary art industry, and we've done so with. Sorry. Can you hear me fine, yeah?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Yes, we've been focusing on technology that will allow authentication and provenance for contemporary art, but at the same time we've developed our NFT platforms both on Ethereum and on Solana. So that's in a nutshell what we've been working on.
Yale?
All right. My name is Yale Reisoleil. I'm a partner of a gallery in Beijing for about 20 years. And most of my time, I'm a professional investment manager and also art collector through the gallery work. In the past 7 or 8 months, about 200 of our artists came to us. We discussed about the real world physical art, their place in the NFT space. And we got quite excited, and everybody got together. So we formed Artworms DAO, basically transforming physical art pieces into the virtual world. And we realized since the digitization of art for 30, 40 years already, and there's something desperately missing. The NFT space finally, NFT technology finally made the ownership, secure the ownership in various forms that will benefit the artists. So the artists now have the opportunity to earn royalties, just like recording artists enjoyed in the past, several decades. So that's what we are right now. We have our very first virtual virtual reality exhibition, as well as our first NFT drop on SOLSea. That's
Thank you,
basically
Yale.
what we're here.
Thank you so much. And just for the audience, Artworm's first exhibition is available on SOLSea. In about an hour, you will be able to see the pieces and actually buy them on SOLSea virtual exhibition. So, Papa Moomoo, tell us a bit about the whole space, the NFT space. How do you see it? What do you collect? Why do you collect?
Absolutely. So, hi everybody, my name is Papa Moomoo. I am the curator for Big Brain Gallery. I've been involved in NFTs since about March of last year. I started on Ethereum and I head to Solana very quickly in August after I realized how much I was spending on the fees. And I realized when I got on Solana, the transactions were absolutely, instant. And one-to-one art started coming into Solana in about August, and I started bidding on one-to-one art and becoming a huge collector. And the reason for that is because I have a huge art background myself. I grew up from an art-friendly family, so I actually did a lot of performing arts throughout high school, college. I professionally toured the United States for a while doing comedy shows. So I kind of understand from like the artist perspective, the rejection, the difficulty, the marketing you have to do. I get how challenging it can be, and I feel like we're now living in a sort of digital renaissance where artists, as Yale mentioned, are now able to almost make a new living off of their art, and people can exchange the ownership of that art piece while the artist is able to receive royalties. So with Big Brain Gallery, what we're doing on Solana, and we're actually looking into moving into other chains as well, is we're starting to collect artwork from both established artists and those who are newer and just starting to get onboarded to the one-to-one space. And I think we're at a huge point, especially if any of you are on Solana, you're seeing there's a huge shift towards one-to-one art. And I think it's only going to continue. And I think it's the more artists that come in, it's a domino effect of them bringing other artists in. And we're really excited for what's to come.
Cool. Thank you very much. So what do you see? I mean, I can start with you. What do you see as the biggest challenge for the one-on-one artists right now coming onto the blockchain, and especially coming into the Solana blockchain?
That's a good question. I think a part of it, the biggest challenge is it's as an artist, you really have to do your own marketing. You really have to put yourself out there and work to sell yourself. And I think as an artist coming into NFTs anywhere, but especially on Solana, if you don't know anybody in the space, it can be very overwhelming as to where do I start? What do I do? How do I network? How do I connect? So I chat with artists every day. But I think the big thing is forming a community with other artists in the space and sort of using each other to elevate each other up, because it's very difficult to do it on your own. But when you have other artists there to support you, it's a lot easier. So I think the biggest barrier is just like the overwhelmingness of where to get started.
And now here comes the important question. Is there a role for a gallerist in the future of the NFT space? Like when you say like artists are coming in and they have so many problems, like, understanding the space, finding the collectors, being in the right community, is there now a space that is, I might say, like needed or even requested?
I wanted to answer that question, if we may. So since
sure.
Yes, since early 2020 with HOFA Gallery, actually we've been precisely doing that. We've been onboarding all of our portfolio of artists, in excess of 50 at the moment, and literally guiding them one step at the time. They didn't know what a wallet was at the time of Ethereum NFTs, and we started collaborating with all the leading platforms at the time, from Super Rare to Maker's Place and so on. And this was very early days. And then of course we developed the platform, and we had to teach them how to mint on our own platform, how to create their profiles, and now with Solana, similarly, we're just onboarding them, getting phantom wallets and setting up all of their minting, and so it is for a gallery now we have a dedicated division that is every day dealing with artists that are for the first time onboarding onto the space.
That's exactly what I wanted to know. And Yale, do you see your role as you know, a curator, or as a gallerist, or you know, like as an agent for all of the artists that you are bringing? Like, do you think this is the crucial moment in time for that type of role?
Yeah, it is a similar, all three of us in the similar situation, because we work with artists, and in our case, we've been working with them for about 20 years. So some of them are internationally well-known. Right now, the first edition, the first series we are dropping, those are the people who have success with auctions houses like Christie's and Sotheby's. But all of them are in China. And you know, cryptos and all this access were forbidden in China. So, but this is the future. Everybody understands that. That's why we formed a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, and they are the members and owners of this organization. So we give them additional incentive, not only helping, just like what you have already been doing, this two gentlemen here, and we are creating basically a membership holding in this whole organization. And more and more artists are talking to us, wanting to be part of that. So we're pretty excited. This is really resonant among the artist community, and this is the future. And so we have quite a few of those, we call that the bigger name people whose auction works usually command about a quarter to $1 million. They are signing up as well.
Yeah, I wanted to add, Yale, absolutely. Well, Vito and the team of ALL.ART is aware. In January this year, we launched Artem Coin, which is a token dedicated only for creating community within the art world. So we actually have now 4,500 users and members in HOFA DAO as well. And so we'd love to actually, I think at the moment, it's all about creating collaborations between these DAOs, organizations, and creating synergies. So we would love to do something. Actually, we have more than 15 very well-established Asian artists in the portfolio. So we would love to create some kind of link with what you're doing.
Perfect.
Elio,
that sounds great.
Now that you mentioned both Yale and you, I would like to ask actually Papa Moomoo, like we are talking about DAOs now, but DAOs that are circulating around, you know, artists and gallerists. What about DAOs that are collector DAOs? Is there something happening in that space?
There are a few DAOs. I'm actually involved in one. LADAO is what it's known as, and it's a group. It started off as a couple friends who are part of the Solana monkey business, which is one of the blue chips on Solana, and they're just two friends who wanted to buy a piece of work by John Lay on Solana, and the work was starting to go for more money, so they decided to put their money together and buy a piece and acquire it. And what's happened since then is it's now about 26 of us, and we're actually slowly auctioning off additional seats. And it's a group of collectors until we reach 100. And the goal, it's almost similar to Big Brain Gallery as well. And the goal of what we're doing as collectors is trying to have almost a treasury of funds that we can all vote on to be like, how do we want to spend this money? And oftentimes what you see in the beauty of Solana and all these ecosystems is you can bring in established artists, but you can also bring in folks who maybe have done work but don't have that huge following. And if you're able to, as a financial investment, but also as a supporter, get into their work early, and if you see that you believe in them, the return of investment in terms of just watching their success grow, the piece can appreciate. It's win-win for both the collector and the artist. So there's a huge group of collectors that are all coming together to form DAOs to acquire different pieces.
Yeah.
Can
I, before we continue, may I ask all of you just to turn a volume of the headsets a little bit down, because there is a lot of there are these buttons just a little bit.
All right.
Is that better?
How about that now?
How about now?
Yeah, I think it's better.
Yeah,
No?
better for me.
Okay.
Quieter?
Yeah.
It's a lot better. Wow, it was terrible.
Yes.
It was great.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
because,
I wanted to
mean,
say that obviously when I said about Artem's allowing access to DAO and the 4,500 members, most of them are collectors. And then, of course, automatically the whole HOFA portfolio of artists got tokens which allow them to enter the DAO. But I think I don't see any discrimination or choices in making DAOs that are only for artists or only for collectors. I think it's all about creating opportunities where like-minded people can join, because often artists of a certain caliber are usually also collectors, and they tend to collaborate between artists and exchange some of their works, and I think collectors want to be in spaces where there's also the artist that they follow and that they like. So I think that's the whole beauty of the gallery world, is where collectors and artists meet. And I think that really the future of any successful DAO will be a platform that allows that connection. And like both of you said, obviously from an artist point of view, the royalties is by far the most important and the most innovative element. And for collectors, the fact of being able to, for example, you don't have the finances to acquire something that's very expensive, and you create a collective where you want to make certain purchases and acquisitions within the fine art or the NFT space. And so you can create smaller communities to acquire that. Yeah, and the only problem, we've actually been at the forefront of that, but the real problem remains everything that's to do with AML, KYC. That's the real big conversation of the space. It's something that we've been working now for 2 years solidly, because there's the element of security. There's the fact that at the moment both USA and most of the countries in the world see acquiring art together as a community, as a security, which is something that's not considered doable at the moment. So and we, trust me, we've been doing that with a company of ours called Art Cells, and you can buy collections of the most important artists like Daniel Arsham, George Condo, Sperling, Banksy, etc., and you can buy a share of it. And so it's very interesting, and we want to offer this to our DAO. But for example, there are legal implications at the moment, and I think that's going to be the real battle.
Yeah, but I think since we're discussing this now, this is something maybe we should have a little bit of conversation with. Originally, in our DAO governance, we are offering the collectors, whoever buys the NFT, a certain amount of our DAO token, WZ. But clearly, just like HOFA just mentioned, and here it's a security issue. Some platforms might have an issue with their local authority, and so how are we going to address that? That is why we have not promote that says, hey, buy the NFT, you get the DAO token. Right now, the DAO token is just distributing among the artists. But we would like to create both artist and collector community and the whole, and that provided the incentive to everybody who's involved in building such a community. But there's another element we think that could be applicable, is physical art, because our artists primarily right now, all of them are creating the actual oil painting or mixed media paintings, and the difference between the or the coexistence of the NFT and the physical art. We're thinking about a different way to bridge that, but that's a different topic, and we could discuss later if we have time.
I would now just because we started discussing these pretty important things that I don't see being discussed in the NFT space, like Elio mentioned, like securitization of art, like are DAOs legal or not legal? Like how do we make them legal? What about the regulators? I want to touch another topic when we're on top of it, like license agreements. Or like what right do we own when we buy an NFT? This is something that ALL.ART is trying also to solve, like to allow people to embed licenses within the NFTs when we mint NFTs. But this is just a start because we saw a lot of need, you know, like inside of the artist communities, first to understand, because we got a lot of questions from the artists like, okay, I see these licenses, but I don't understand what this means. You know, like, hey, wait a minute, but you're giving away your art piece. You should know like what you are actually selling, like what the buyer, you know, has the right to do with the piece. And we saw a lot of problems in the NFT space. I mean, we are involved in Solana space, like with these NFT collections that gave away all the IP rights to their buyers, you know, like but they gave it away on the website. They're saying like, hey, you know, like you own all the IP rights on the art that you buy. But then like I can make copy mints of the things that, and they're completely legal, right? So now, how do you guys see?
I think they were scared, perhaps. They wouldn't sell, right? There was a feeling almost like if you didn't give away everything, that you wouldn't sell a collection because people would feel that they're not really buying something, because already there is that element that you're buying a digital token and you're telling me this is an art piece and it's an investment. And in some cases, as Papa Moo said earlier on the Ethereum network, you're paying tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars for something that you don't really know, like, do I own it for real? And then it's a bit like the NFT became a synonymous of 100% ownership of all your rights, isn't it? Is that what you're saying, Vito?
Well, I would like I would like to mention that I think this is a great point, and that is the primary reason we found SOLC so attractive. It is the first platform we have found that addresses such an issue. This is a serious thing, and we think the art world has a lot to learn from the music industry. So once you think in that way, and all of those doubts, basically, that goes away. You buy a CD, you buy whatever limited collection or anything, but you never, you know, own the Elvis sound. It is Elvis Foundation. So that has been normal for decades. And in the art world, that has not been addressed. So this is the time, because of NFT, the emergence of the
it's NFT, because in the art world, right? In the art world, when you're buying an expensive piece of art, you know, the whole point of it, there's the element of investment, which doesn't exist in the music, although it did exist in the 50s, the 60s, where you were buying a collectible vinyl. And if you had that rare vinyl, you could basically resell it. And then the element of collectibility was almost lost in the music industry. Whereas in the art world, people collect a piece because there's the element of reselling it freely. And then recently, in recent years, galleries have started imposing non-resale agreements. So another, you know, very valid point to what you're saying, Yale, is the non-resale agreements block you for a certain period of time from reselling any piece of art. You know, this gives stability to the market. This stops, you know, the whole flipping of collectors buying something and reselling it. But at the same time, it's kind of going in the direction where you're saying, where it's more accepted slowly that you own a piece for your own enjoyment, and for your private own enjoyment, you cannot monetize that. The crazy part is that, you know, the art world is mainly based on monetizing something that you buy from an investment point of view, unless it's a decorative item. If it's a decorative item, you know, people spend money on beautiful things that we all know they don't have a secondary market resale value. But in the NFT space, the whole concept is of buying something that also has a secondary resale value. And that's, you know, that's where there's always gonna be a slight conflict if the rights are too limitative and don't give you something that you are able to monetize in a secondary market. That's the real challenge, I think.
Let me
I think
ask
it is. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you actually, but please continue. Tell something if you have, and then I'll ask you.
I mean, I think it's an interesting discussion as we think of the secondary market, especially for art as an NFT, because on one hand, it can be, you can have these no sale agreements, but the beautiful thing with the token and having the contract with is you can have a % of the secondary sales go to the artist. And I think it opens up a unique conversation of like, it's actually, and this is something we talk about in Solana a lot of, like, you buy this piece and you could buy this piece for 100 Solana, and I've seen people resell it a month later for 300. And the question is like, is that encouraged? Is it not? And talking to artists, I hear them always being like, it's great, because by selling it on secondary, and again, not a quick flip, but to see it appreciate, it shows you, it started because we're so early in this, it shows what the market values various pieces at, A, and B, it helps to reward the artists, again, as they're making passive income off their art, which is something that has never been done before. So I think it's
but
an
how do you
important
feel
to have.
about what Vito was saying, right? Like, how do you feel about the royalty? Is a great thing, and we all agree that it's the main and most valuable element of the NFT smart contract for artists. But then if you suddenly are telling a collector you don't actually own this NFT is actually a license, how would you feel as a collector, since you are a collector?
Yeah, I mean, and that's where you get, it's a very tricky area for me. And one thing I see it happen with is with photography, especially. I've seen a couple big name photographers starting to come in, and a lot of folks are acquiring the pieces going, what ownership do I have over it? Do I get commercial rights to this? What is it now? And a lot of it is just like, just understanding, sometimes they're like, you just own this for the pure enjoyment of it. And I see in the space, some people are so okay with that, but it does turn others off. And I think it is a really interesting discussion to be like, where is that line drawn? Right, and I'm curious to see what everyone.
I haven't seen the royalty parts of that SolC offers. Actually, I want to look at them, but I think like a set of standard, maybe multi-level sort of royalty, where you start with something that's strictly a royalty of personal usage only and enjoyment, as you said, all the way going to more complex full rights, especially with certain countries, with certain please.
Maybe I could jump in and tell you like how the licenses on SolC work, like these 4 levels of licenses. We just started extending them, and I'll give you a kind of a brief overview on how it works. We have 4 levels of licenses. I'll try to come from the top of my head, like for all 4. Like there is a clear distinction between private use and public use. Okay, so private use is something that when you acquire something, you get, this is a basic right that you have. Like you can always privately use things that you acquire. Okay, you can listen to your CD privately. You can look at your painting privately. And then we extend into the public use. Like what type of public use do I have the right to do, right? Can I make an exhibition of a specific piece and put it out in the public? And why is this important? So if I'm, as an artist, giving you a right to publicly expose my art, then the context in which you're putting my artwork, me as an artist, really matters. So are you going to put my artwork in front of some stupid looking pieces, or are you put it together, you know, like with a really high valued art pieces, or maybe see some, you know, prominent space? This is where I want to see my artwork. I don't want to see my artwork in, you know, like in a boutique shop in you know, like some shopping mall. I want to see my artwork somewhere where it's, you know, like increasing in value. So then when we move from public accessibility, we go into the full commercial rights. So there is a fine line between all of these segments. And then, you know, commercial rights are, can I exploit the work by, you know, like by buying it? Can I buy and print t-shirts? Can I buy it and, you know, like put it on my car or whatever I want to do with this, and resell it? That's also important. Like I'm printing t-shirts and then I'm reselling the t-shirts. Here, there is an important aspect, is enforceability of royalties from commercial rights. This is something that we don't have now. And who knows how we're going to make that happen? You know, like how am I going to know whether, you know, if I claim specific royalties from commercial right that I sold you, like how am I going to check whether you made billions, or, you know, you say, hey, I only earned 2,000 euros on this, you know, like, but how do I know this? So we have a long way to go for this, but if we see blockchain as a way to kind of stamp, you know, every movement of the NFT and the licenses and everything, maybe in 5 to 10 years, we will be in these chains of you know, resales. We will be able to guarantee even the commercial rights that get some royalties for the original artists. Yeah, so we see also important distinction between, you know, public private use and public full non-commercial public use. So these are the levels that we offer right now. But I have one more interesting thing to share with you guys, is that when we started building up this license thing on Solsi and in ALL.ART protocol, we started giving people ability to actually select whatever a part of within the license that they want to include in the license. But that turns out to be too much hassle for artists. They don't even understand, you know, like sometimes the basic license agreement. They're not lawyers. So
yeah, artists don't like agreements.
Yes, they don't like the agreements. So it's very difficult for them to actually get deeper into the topic. Like, hey, I'm giving you right to exhibit my piece in your private home and in the museum and in the gallery, but not in the public space of a square, for example. And you can't put that all in writing, and you can sell that type of license. But, you know, like, it's just too complex. We need, what we are working now on are actually wizards. You know, like click here, click here, click here, answer questions, and then you get automatically the license agreement that is right for you. And I'll end this. You know, I'm not the guest here, so you are the guest. But I just want to add one more thing, is like a single art piece can have multiple types of licenses associated to it. And that's same in the music, that's same in the art world, that's same in whatever, movies or whatever. So the same, you know, art piece can be used publicly and can be used commercially and can be used privately. We don't have a protocol that supports that yet. So we started the work on that, but then we you know, ended up creating a Solsi because that was the demand of the market, give us the secondary marketplace. But originally we started thinking about, okay, so there is a work, but, you know, maybe someone is willing to pay substantial amounts of money for this work to buy a commercial license, but there are people that are just fine with buying just a private license for their own need, you know. And then, like,
yes,
how
I
do
think
we put
the level
all of that together?
Perhaps of being able to upgrade a license could, you know, be an interesting, you know, when you're buying the piece, you know, you're buying a basic license, and then if you want to make further use, you know, specific use of the piece, you can upgrade your license all the way to basically be a gallerist, have the opportunity to exhibit somebody's artwork and you know, have it as part of your collections inside Solsi and etc.
I just think it's that point where you're saying, as I think there needs to be a lot more education around it. Yeah. I think there's just a complete lack of education. And I also think what you're saying, Vito, there needs to be explicitness by the marketplace or whoever is selling it, again, to like help the artist understand like what is it that you want to be sold or not sold, and then for the collector to understand what is it you're buying or not buying. So I think there needs to be a ton of education, a ton more being explicit, and we're so early, and I think there's markets for that. But I do think that. But yeah, I'm sorry.
Will evolve, and what makes us select SOC is because it's a different license level. And our artist member look at that, and so this aligns with our common practice. We don't restrict the people who bought the physical art their right to resell that or whatsoever. But for the last 15 years, every piece we have sold, from a few $100s to $200,000, having the same license agreement. They own the physical art, but the buyer never owns the copyright. So the copyright stays with the artist himself. So this, what we're doing is this DAO now owns the copyright that we acquire from the artists. And we just mentioned, that makes a lot of sense. Different buyers can later upgrade to different license agreement. For instance, right now we are using we pick all our 34 pieces the level 3 agreement for public display and commercial display, or further on they even want to acquire those unsold pieces. Right now our pieces we put on, everything has already been sold, physically owned by some collectors or museums. But in the future, new pieces, for instance, and the NFT buyer can use in some certain ways. We're not going to get into detail for now today, but they might have a different way later. Says, I not only enjoy or wanting to own the NFT, I also want to own the physical piece. I think that can be a possibility in the future too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So let me now, I think it's a right time to actually now shift the discussion about into the virtual worlds, right? Mm-hmm. Because we were talking about the NFTs, the license rights, you know, like the art pieces in real life, and how the gallery, you know, kind of works, and the collections that are stored now as NFTs. How do you guys perceive and see virtual worlds? Let me say this fantastic word, metaverses. You know, like, it's all hail to the metaverse. You know, like, but okay, we are in the metaverse. We are now, you know, inside of the virtual space. Do you see art moving into the virtual spaces? How do you see collecting when you have somewhere to exhibit it in the virtual space? Like, what will be the use case of an NFT once you collect it, you know, in a virtual space? And how do you see the whole space kind of progressing in the next couple of years, especially, you know, like having a large companies like Facebook, that is now called Meta, and, you know, Microsoft and Apple probably jumping in the train, and like all others. Like, what is the future of the virtual worlds and the art sector? Papa, maybe you can start.
Sure. I think there's two areas to think about. I think one is the sort of like clout, and you've probably heard people talk about this before, where it is like right now, if you own a physical piece and you're not a gallery, you are just an individual, right? No one's going to see that piece unless, to say it's Yale's, unless I go to Yale's house and he shows me around, right? But now the beautiful thing with the metaverse is you have the ability to create a sort of digital gallery that you can have anyone from all over the world like this come over at any time and take a look. So instead of having it where like people have to come over and maybe 3 people see it a year, you have the ability to almost commercialize your own personal individual collection, to have it online, to have way more eyes on it. So I think that's huge as A. And then B, in addition to clout, and sorry if you hear the sirens going by, I'm in a big city. In addition to clout is the experience. Right now, if you buy an NFT, a lot of people just have these pieces of art sitting in their phantom wallet. And so much of how you experience art is the actual experience of whether it's in a gallery, walking into their room, if there's music playing, seeing it next to other pieces, right? And I think it's giving collectors and gallerists and a lot of folks the ability to really think, now that we have these pieces of art, what do we want the experience to be for the viewer? And I've seen a few galleries, and this is a beautiful example where it's super engaging. It's something that people would want to come to. You can really toy with light. You can toy with texture. You can toy with sound. And I think the more people that really lean into that, the better.
I completely agree with Papa Moomoo. So basically, I think obviously in terms of showcasing your pieces, the most successful platform and app that's existed in, for the last 10 years is obviously Instagram. It's become, for a lot of collectors, it's become a place where they showcase their collections and so on. But I think the real change comes in the scalability, in the fact of being able to experience it in real size, in the right scale, which a lot of the art and the imagery on Instagram was not able to give you. That you might have bought a large 2 meters by 3 meters painting, and you post an image on Instagram, but it just doesn't give you that same effect when you're experiencing it by just simply watching the image. So, like you said, being invited into curated spaces by collectors and giving collectors the opportunity to showcase their collections in a certain way that gives other collectors and like-minded people the real experience of what they felt when they bought and acquired those pieces. I think that's next level. And I mean, I have to agree also what you said. The experience is the most important element, which obviously Instagram was not able to offer, because commenting and so on is not the same as being invited in a metaverse space where you can really experience the collection, the same one that SOLC has created now. After this talk, there's pretty amazing. I was walking through the exhibition yesterday, and you really get to see the frame of the piece. You get to see it from the side. You see the size of it. You kind of get whatever the artist wanted to transmit. I think you are getting it at a good 90%. I think it's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
actually, I can maybe jump in.
Address the two very important transformation from the traditional art to the virtual world. The virtual world actually has happened ever since the computers are capable of processing images and the scanners and so on and so forth. And that created the very first problem was, digital rights, or the rights of that. Before, you own a piece in 18th century, that's your art. And now the same piece of art can be shown anywhere online. You just right click and save. So many of them just precious ones are held in their basement, in their vault, in the bank. And so the NFT comes along, not ascertains the proper digital rights or the physical rights or any rights to that. And as you mentioned, so that's a major improvement. And that is very, very attractive to both, we believe, the artists and the investors, the collectors. You don't just buy a piece of JPG file anymore. You actually you're entitled to the ownership of that piece of art. But HOFA just mentioned, and the VR came along. The metaverse came along, just like right now we is four of us standing here. We feel like we are in this space. There's basically almost no difference. The experience looking at this wonderful, wall here, and when you can enjoy your art, your 2 meter by 3 meter piece of art, almost the same way. That is a totally different experience than a 2-dimensional or a small phone screen. You have
absolutely. You're right. I think
a few years. So
it gives a huge.
We really think, whether we like it or not, this is where the world is going.
Yeah, absolutely. I think until there was really this level of metaverse experience, I think people were struggling to understand the real value of digital art and NFTs and where it can go. And now that you see it like this and you realize, wow, I can actually meet with like-minded people, collectors, DAOs, artists. I can, have seminars, exhibitions, and experience it. So, there could be a great show from Perotan in Tokyo, and you don't have to fly for 48 hours to go see it, because you can just be there, and be invited with some of the most, important collectors from around the world, and see at first hand some of the world's most incredible creations. Yeah, absolutely.
Let me tell you one thing, but Papa, I also want to hear your opinion, of course, on all of this. But what we did when we were developing ALL.ART, okay, so we did some research. So we did research at the university, actually that's a laboratory for experimental psychology, right? So we compared real-life exhibition to a virtual exhibition, and compare that to looking at the art pieces on the computer screen. Like, people were standing in front of the computer screen and through the art, browsing through the art. And then, there was a big study actually happening. What we did in ALL.ART is that we kind of cloned the exhibition that existed in real life in a very, smallest amount of details in virtual reality. Like all the frames were the same, the height of the images, like everything was the same. And the gallery was also 3D scanned, so it was like. And what turned out is that we got no significantly measurable difference between seeing art in real life compared to virtual reality. Where there was a significantly detectable difference in seeing art on a computer screen. And we are now doing another study with them too. They will be experimenting with a lot of different things in VR. But here I want to stress out one more thing, and then Papa, I will turn the mic to you, Mike, like virtual mic. Is that like when we started ALL.ART some 3 or 4 years ago, when we started developing the platform, what we found out was that the first impressions of the platform were not so good, because we used, not a realistic lighting. We used, like kind of a gaming lighting, and we didn't do light calculations in what we call in the computer science global illumination. So as soon as we moved into the spaces that had great details, like the floors were the right texture, the lighting was done in the proper way, everything, people stopped worrying about the space and they focused on art. And this is the moment that we realized that in order for people to understand and appreciate art in virtual worlds, we actually need to give them, photorealistic level of virtual worlds around them, so they stop worrying about virtual world and they can actually say, okay, I'm in a reality almost, and now I can go in and focus on the piece itself. And this is what we found out. So that's why we are so focused on bringing these tremendously, realistic virtual spaces, so that when people get in, they don't feel they're in a computer game, they don't feel they're in some blocky metaverse, they actually feel like they're in a real gallery, in order for them to relax and actually see the real art. So, Papa, how do you see collecting versus, like, if you're collecting NFTs, like, are you thinking about exhibit and moving from a collector into a museum or a gallery, or like that, or?
Absolutely. I mean, it's something I think about both as my personal collection and as we do the collection for Big Brain Gallery. And I think one thing I'm seeing a lot of collectors do on an individual level is there are a few websites where you can create a small mini gallery that if you go into it, it's exactly as you said. You have to have it as close to reality, because the minute someone puts on some virtual headset, for example, which not everyone's going to do, some people will do it on their desktop, but the minute you put on a virtual headset, there is this amazing moment of childlike wonder where you're looking around in awe. And the goal is to really have people focus on the art. And the more you really hone in on what actual galleries in the real world are doing and doing well with the lighting, the texture, the height, and all of it, the more you really focus on that and try and bring that in, the less everyone is just like taking in the fact that I'm in this virtual space, and the more they're able to believe it. and then just focus more on the art. So for me personally, we're definitely looking with Big Brain Gallery, for example, as we acquire these pieces, where is a gallery that we want to start putting these up? And then there's all the work that goes into what is the lighting, what are the different rooms? Do you want music? Because the experience of how folks, take in the art is so important. So it's something I'm constantly thinking about as a personal collector and for the gallery.
Papa, no need to worry about it. You come to us and then we will give you everything you need.
It's incredible. I mean, this is, as you can tell, you see me probably looking around in the middle talking because I'm so amazed.
As I said, we found these two platforms you have created, the VR or art and the SOC. That is so fundamentally different, not just only different from any other NFT platforms. You're onto something actually from the art movement and the NFT movement, you're leading something. So we would like to know from the artists and from the collector's point of view, the curator's point of view, what are the immediate roadmaps to have a tighter integration of these two platforms, both for the artists, the sellers, and ones for the buyers. How many of them are right now? They are on SOC because they also wanting to enjoy the VR aspect of the whole package you're offering. Probably, I guess many of them don't even know, but I don't know that yet. And I'm saying this because we're a little bit different from many other NFT artists. We actually have those physical big pieces. We have pieces that is 2 meter wide. We have even some pieces this time we're not offering that yet. Those are the 8 meter pieces. So that is what really attracts artists like ours.
Well, maybe I can tell you just a couple of points so we don't waste too much time on this, because I have a couple of more questions I want to ask you. The next thing that we will release with ALL.ART is ability to buy art pieces in VR using Solana blockchain, right? So you enter inside, you have your wallet. The wallet is a bit difficult because you need to enter the secret phrase, and we are still looking into the ways we can ease the process of getting your wallet inside VR. But basically, you approve a transaction directly in VR. You come to the piece, you go to exhibition and you buy a piece directly or bid on a piece. So this is coming in very, very shortly, and then we see that events are what makes all the difference, right? If you go in alone in the gallery, that's one type of experience. We should not underestimate this, because it feels differently when you go alone, and then you can spend some time. There's no one around to bother you. But there is also a moment of interaction, of community that gathers now in these virtual environments. Like the four of us are here, and then we are kind of having a good time. And then if you imagine yourself being in an exhibition, then it's a completely different time that we are spending inside of that kind of space. So we are moving into this direction of, first of all, enabling people to actually go into VR and utilize the blockchain and NFTs. And then the second thing is to bring in these communities in the events in VR. And I think this is a very important moment. But it also comes down to the point of okay, is this, business-wise, is this something that is better than, making a marketplace for 10,000 PFPs and then just trading them? Or is it do traders actually want to get into the VR? They don't care? Or, what is the trader versus a collector? And this is something that Papa might say more in the future. But I want to, the end of this panel, I want to dedicate to one important talk, and that HOFA and Yale mentioned, is that physical art and digital art, and the link between these two. What happens? Are we ready to transform the real art into an NFT or a digital version of it, and then send the physical art, or maybe keep it and hold it for a collector? How do you see the progress of the space in that kind of cycle?
Well, I wanted to answer. So we've been collaborating with a company in Switzerland called 4Art Technologies, which already 2 years ago was able to offer us through a mobile app, the ability to scan a work of art that you collect as a collector or as a gallery, to ensure that provenance is intrinsically within the blockchain and placed and time mapped, and creating basically effectively a digital passport for the artwork, right? So they were achieving this by effectively scanning and doing photo. You have to have the piece lit in a certain way, well lit, and then you would basically take many photos and scan, and then at the same time you place a specific area within the piece that you set as a bit like a hidden password, an encrypted part, that this is just a nuance, a shade of the piece. It could be a specific area, it could be the signature, and so on. It's something that you remember, so that when the physical piece comes back to you, you can ensure that the piece is effectively the same one that you consigned to someone, that you gave to an exhibition, and so on. Because obviously counterfeit, and it's a very big issue in the art world, as you know, especially when you're going into pieces that are highly collectible. There starts to be always the element of a fake. Was that the real piece that you consigned to someone, the one you got back? And there's been a lot of this. So I think absolutely technology that helps you to, first of all, validate, authenticate real works of art, and then, like Yale said as well, scanning and placing and recreating these pieces in the metaverse is, I think, a priority for the art world in order to create anything else from the future later on. So royalties and DAOs and everything, without this initial step and having this really well made from the start, I think it's crucial if you want the digitalization in a correct way and being done in the correct way. With NFTs, obviously the issue is much simpler, because if a piece is only an NFT, digital only creation, then that's the one advantage. But I think as soon as you want to migrate real world art into the metaverse, I think there has to be a thorough process that is followed by the creator, by the gallery, and by important institutions to digitalize the work the correct way.
Well, to us, it is not whether or not we like from the physical world of the art world into a virtual world, digital world. It's not up to us. It has been underway. And the future, nobody can stop that. But not the technology is a problem, or digitalization is a problem. It's expanding process, augmentation of the traditional art you can enjoy. And also Papa mentioned it before, and right now, it just adds. So your physical art will be able to have, for instance, enjoyed by more people, while you still be certain your digital rights, your ownership rights. And meanwhile, there are other derivative trading value of your original art. So all of this is because of the advancement of technology. So technology is not an evil, and not a replacement either. It's an augmentation, and we believe both worlds will coexist through the technology. And we are pioneering right now, SOLC and ALL.ART, and it's going to create a more and more real, enjoyable, or true value to the art world. So,
Elio left us. Probably the battery died out on his headset, but we anyway have only a few minutes left.
You cannot see me. Oh, am I back?
Ooh, yeah. It's like a ghost.
You're a ghost in space. Yeah, we can.
Floating around.
Okay, you are here, but virtually. That's cool. I mean, virtually on Square.
Virtually in this virtual world. Yeah.
Yes. So, Papa, I want to ask you, like, you as a collector that you know, like, and as a kind of an NFT gallery collector, do you ever think about collecting real art as NFTs and then moving them into the NFT space, or like, how do you see this transformation?
I mean, I think a big part of it is the onboarding, as we kind of mentioned. I know Yale is mentioning, and Elio as well, was onboarding artists who are just obviously outside of NFTs, and sort of working with them to learn how to bring that into the space. I think right now it's very easy for us to be in a bubble, and we forget sometimes in the NFT world that there's only a few, you know, hundred, maybe thousands, maybe even less hands trading the sort of value of the art. Welcome back. And I really think it's important to onboard new artists. So I think, as we mentioned before, the purpose of DAOs or galleries to be a launch pad to help launch these artists. And I also think buyers. I think there's an opportunity to actually bring in buyers from the real world and artists into the metaverse and the digital galleries. I think there's a huge opportunity there. And I think the more inclusive and education forward we are, the easier it's going to be. And I know if I onboard a friend to acquire art, if I tell them the artist, if it goes for a certain amount, will send you a physical piece, they're even more excited to actually get in for the first time, because then they get the token or the NFT plus a physical piece. So I think a big conversation needs to happen around how do we onboard collectors and artists.
Let me then
I wanted to add. So for example, in the HOFA DAO with Artem Coin, we've done it in levels of staking. If you're a platinum staker, and you basically deposit a certain amount of tokens for 6 months, as long as you're a platinum level staker, you have access to real world benefits, such as obviously, so you can have all the way to ticketed events, printed, signed prints by artists. And depending on the level, we absolutely want to also incorporate, you know, physical unique works that can be, you know, acquired directly from that level of DAO. So it's definitely, I think, the most interesting element that you can do, combining token membership and levels of staking to achieve real world benefits.
Yeah. So my battery on the headset is going very, very low. So if I disappear, you know what happened, and we can close it down. Anyway, we are off time. But what I wanted to add, because this is still virtual, and you know, like we have some time more, to tell you how we think that you know, onboarding new artists and especially collectors from the real world can happen easily. So we had a talk with the gallerists once we were making them a virtual gallery in ALL.ART, and he asked us, like, hey, can I buy these headsets? How much do they cost? You know, like, okay, it's a $300, you know, for Oculus 2 headset. Can I buy 100 of them and send it out to all my collectors? I said, yes, why not? I mean, this is just, you know, like a very small amount of money compared to the, you know, the price of art that you are selling. So if you are selling pieces that are, you know, a couple of tens of thousands of US dollars, it's normal to kind of invest, you know, a couple of tens of thousands into, you know, VR headsets, and then to send it out. So this is one very important way to actually do something in the space to get people inside of the metaverse. So yeah, anyway, we need to close down the panel.
Very quick question I have about the metaverse, the Facebook metaverse, and will this particular platform also be available cross-platform? For instance, if you're using a NVIDIA headset, can you access this space, or has to be through this Facebook Meta Quest 2? Because of,
that's a good question, Yale.
Big part of China, they couldn't access this.
Well, a really good question.
Yeah. Actually, I got a colleague of mine plugging me in, so I have more power. So we can a bit longer. I think that the whole fight between different metaverses, you know, like everybody wants you in their own metaverse. So they you know, Facebook doesn't want you to go into, you know, like I don't know, Microsoft or vice versa. I think that here it comes down to a point of digital assets and ownership of an NFT as a digital asset. So ALL.ART is now building a 3D NFT standard that will be, out in a couple of weeks, hopefully. And we want to give people ability to own a 3D NFT and not own only kind of a hash, but when you access the file that is behind, the metadata, you actually can have and use this file in any metaverse, hopefully in the future.
That's very exciting, yeah.
As soon as we move from metaverses being kind of closed wall gardens where you can use only the assets from that metaverse into kind of an open metaverse standards where people can utilize whatever is in their wallet, and you can read that as the Phantom wallet is now reading, or for example, Soulflare is reading all the data from your NFTs, then we can kind of push the Facebooks of this world and Metas of this world and Apples of this world to actually enable us to use the NFTs that we own inside of these virtual spaces. And I think that will be a big shift towards kind of the openness.
Yeah, maybe you can create some type of new standard, just like a JPEG, becomes a standard that can be displayed on any type of devices. So what you're saying, this will be something that is fundamentally, useful.
Yeah. So let's then have a couple of last words from every one of you. Maybe if you had something in your mind during this talk that you want to share with the audience, we have a couple of more minutes. So let's please, HOFA, can you start?
Again, thank you so much for having us here. Really interesting, contributors and Yale. Lovely to meet you, Papa Moo. It's been really interesting to get your feedback also from a collector point of view. For us, I just wanted to obviously say we're excited to see our exhibition on SolSea. Make this partnership as fruitful and long-standing as possible. And we are focusing very strongly on the multi-chain, on the cross-chain. As Yale was saying, we believe very much in doing a product that is universal and bringing the art world and the digital art as well to a place that comes together, that doesn't have boundaries of different blockchains or devices, and that's something that really brings people together. And I really look forward to seeing the new exhibition that's going to be on ALL.ART, and looking forward to meet you all again, guys, soon. And hopefully you come and visit us as well in London, or if you're in any of the art fairs.
Keep in touch with you. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I enjoy our conversation here, and we touch off a few actually pretty quite significant points down the road. So basically, we would like to grow together with SolSea, with ALL.ART, because we believe right now you're at the cutting edge of something, although it's at a very early stage, but it could become something that will go mainstream for the entire art and the collectors world and traders.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm super thankful I had the opportunity to be here. It's a pleasure to meet both of you, and I really did enjoy our discussion. And I mean, I think we're on the precipice of something pretty amazing. And I think the more inclusive and the more education we provide to onboard folks who are new is key. And that's something that I, especially with Big Brain Gallery, want to focus on. So if anyone, is an artist who's maybe new to the space but curious, or a collector who is mainly in the physical world who's curious, I'm more than happy to touch base and chat. It's something I love doing is connecting with artists and collectors. It's my bread and butter. I love people, and I love to connect with different folks. And Big Brain Gallery is really excited to be elevating the voices of those who are super experienced in this space and those who are maybe coming and are new. We're excited to elevate those voices and help promote.
Thank you, Papa Moomoo. And I'm now officially inviting you to set up an exhibition in ALL.ART and publish it on SolSea even next week, because it's virtual and the setup can be done pretty easily, so the team can help you out with this, and we can have it up there and running in no time. So
thank you.
My kind of closing words would be that I think, as Yale mentioned, like, we touched on very important topics. We don't have twice as much battery as we would need in these headsets to cover, at least these important points that we touched base today. And I think that the conversation needs to happen beyond, like the websites. We need to meet in virtual worlds or in like in Zoom calls and things. We are the ones. I mean, when I say we, I said the whole community is the ones that are actually pushing these changes to happen. And I said this whenever I go public. I say that we are now in a war. We are literally down in a war for human attention. And this war is, between the gaming world, between the entertainment world, between the mobile phones and things. And our job, our mission is to bring in some real value, like culture, art into the space of metaverses. And this is our role. I mean, all of us, like, we want to be there, and we need to be there with the high quality, stuff, with the high quality content and the valuable things, to invite even children. Children coming into the VR. This is an amazing experience. When you see them, they have no worries, they have no fears. They just wander around freely. And we need to get, like people like all these different levels of like elders, like our grandpas and grandmas, to enjoy these beautiful, museum and art spaces in these virtual worlds. So we are fighting the war for human attention, but I think with quality and with something that might bring a better life for the society and the civilization. At least we see that as our mission. So thanks again. I don't know. Oh, the cameras are off. Are we off?
I think it's off.
Seems,
that's okay.
Yeah, the cameras are off. It seems that we are off. But anyway, if we are not off, huh? Well, they're checking it now. But anyway, if we are not off, if this is still live, I don't know. We can then say, huh? Okay, we are live. They're saying we are live. Okay, so I would like to thank all the audiences, of course, the members of this panel. I think this was a fantastic panel. I would like to see you guys again in VR, of course, at least in some of the exhibitions. And I would like to invite the audience now to go to SOL.C Visit. We have 3 exhibitions there, and you can go. And I think we open up the trading so you can actually go and buy art pieces that are exhibited there. So thank you again for joining us and for being here with us today. And I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
We had a great time.
Thank you for this
Thank you.
opportunity and
Thank
to
you.
meet
It's been a pleasure.
both
Thank
of you. So keep in touch.
Yeah, thank
sure.
you. Yeah,
Thank you.
Elio,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank
you so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.